Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Circle of Panic with you, Lala Gomez. And in this occasion, starting the month of June of 2026, I want to talk about a topic that I started mentioning and digging in back in 2024. One of my closest friends, spiritual sister, told me during the 2026, we are going to enter in a process that is very similar to what we went through back in 2024. And I didn't see it coming because for me, 2025 was a year full of work on earth, presential. I was very much absent online. And I was very focused on creating my reality in this present moment where I'm located. And so the moment that we cross the portal, we enter 2026, I have seen that shift, how we have gone back to like an upper upgraded version of 2024. On 2024, from the very beginning of January, I started talking about soul connections, recognition of soul connections, and soul connections processes, people that are already in the process and how the relationship works, and so on. Now, this time I want to go back to that. I want to talk about what happens in a soul connection. I want to give more clarity about it and how all of us we experience it in a way or another. The first thing is that every single connection that you live is a soul connection. Every single encounter, relationship, casual connection is a soul connection. We want to believe that the soul connection is something only when the connection turns elevated or dense or intense, or no, it also happens in casual, fun, light connections. It's also a soul connection because a soul connection is basically the fulfillment of an agreement made previously coming down to the earth in order to live certain things, experience certain things, improve, upgrade. When two people are connected, let me see if I get the card around here. When two people are connected, this card can show us that dynamic, even though the meaning of this card is doubt, but we can, in when we are reading certain questions, I use it as a way of connecting ideas. When two people are connected, this is the card I wanted to show, the temperance. When two people are connected, what happens is there is a transference of information. There are things that one soul has integrated that for the other soul are new. And in casual conversations, we call that, oh no, I learned from this person. He's super organized. She's super organized. I learned discipline. No, you did not learn discipline. You knew what discipline was before that person entered in your life. You probably were told million times by your mom when you were young to be disciplined or to be organized or to clear up your mess and organize your room, etc. But what made you turn into a disciplined, organized, or clean person after a soul connection is the connection, is the transference of information. It's not mental, it is emotional, it is spiritual. Now, do we have soul connections with our parents, friends? We do, but they have a degree. They have a degree. The most impactful connection happens when it develops at romantic level. Okay? Why? Because this is how we are designed. The unity of polarities. With my mom, there is hierarchy. With my father, there is hierarchy. With my children, there is hierarchy. With my brothers and sisters, there is order. Not hierarchy, but order. With my friends, there is cooperation and there is a certain level of soul connection. Friends also have an impact in us because many of them are soul sisters, soul brothers, soul siblings, so spiritual family. So a friend has that impact in your life because there is a transference of energy as well. But the strongest connection happens when it turns sexual. Why? Because the information transfer through sexual connection, physical, mental, emotional, whatever. It not necessarily needs to be like there are connections that happen when two people are away and they have never seen each other yet they experience this kind of connection. Now, this card is very interesting because it shows how the connection functions. I don't know if it's very clear, but if we can see, she looks up to the angel, he looks up to her, creating a circuit, a trinity. When we have a soul connection, we are not uniting two polarities. The two polarities hold themselves in a third one, which is the divine. And so there is this transference, okay, of energy. Okay. The she, as the feminine, is in charge of elevating spiritual the matter. He represents the matter. So she elevates him spiritually, not mothering, not teaching him, not guiding him with words, simply with her energy, with the power of her womb as her center of power. Then she, if she's obviously, she needs to have a degree of divine connection in order to be able to assist someone to do this elevation. So once she does that work, she elevates him. He starts searching for higher truths. He starts trying to connect with his soul purpose. He's trying to connect with his mission in life. He's trying to connect with the real meaning of life. Then, once he downloads through his crown the information from the divinity that he is searching for, he can offer her the contention in the physical reality that transforms into a relationship. So, first point here, not all connections are relationships. The relationship is a 3D thing in which there is a structure that sustains itself in order for an exchange of two people. This is a relationship. When the relationship happens first, or the relationship happens at the end, when there is first a recognition, and I will talk more in detail about it, and then there is an acceptance of that recognition. And then we go into the relationship. Most of the connections not necessarily end up in relationships because the relationships require a structure, require a reality. The relationships happen in the physical reality. The connections happen at a spiritual level, and the connections not necessarily imply physical connection. It can be mental, it can be spiritual. Actually, it's originally spiritual, then it goes mental, then goes emotional, and then it reaches the physicality. And when there is a lot of density, when there is a lot of blocks, when there is a lot of obstacles, the connection disconnects in the reality. And if we see this card, the relationship, the ones go under the earth. They are very, very strongly cemented on the earth. When there is a disconnection in the physicality, the connection can continue emotional, mental, and spiritual. Sometimes the disconnection is so big that even emotionally, both go numb and stop feeling anything. And then it remains mental. And the mental means you continue thinking and remembering the person. And then it can be also disconnection on that level, but the connection remains spiritual because it's an agreement of the souls. in which I will transfer you certain information. Now, not all the connections are meant to end in a happily ever after. No. Most of them, 90% of the connections that we have are 90, 95, 99 are temporal. Okay? 99% of the connections that we have are temporal. Is there one connection that can sustain time and can go, ahead and then create a reality on this earth? Yes, it is possible. It is possible. And we have two types of connections that can last on earth: 3D connections and 5D connections. 3D connections work better because it's a choice that I do, and obviously it's previously agreed as well. It's a choice that I do based on you fit into my checklist of the things that I need in order to feel secure. And the other person does the calculation and says, you fit into the category and the criteria that I need in order to build something with you. So we match, we agree, we do a contract, we get married, we go live together. These sorts of connections are not 100% easy, but they are 90% easier than those that are 5D connections. Now, these are names that I'm randomly giving. What are the 5D connections? The 5D connections are connections that break your box of 3D. And what is your 3D? Your belief systems, your ego, your personality, the things that you pick up from the environment, the decisions and the beliefs that you decided to adopt based on past experiences, your ambitions, things that are associated to your character, culture, experiences, background. And so this is your 3D, your ambitions, the things that you want to achieve, how far you want to go in life, blah, blah, blah. And you find a partner that matches that. Fine, perfect, becomes easy. Let's go, move ahead. Easy up to a certain extent, because obviously dealing with somebody else is never 100% easy. And we know that. Now, there is another type of connections that has become more and more and more and more common in the recent times. And there was a massive awakening back in 2024. And it continued throughout 2025. And in 2026, it's picking up again a lot. And it's the soul connections of 5D. All of them, as I mentioned, are soul connections. What are the soul connections of 5D? A name that I give. Connections that challenge your 3D structure to break it apart so that you grow out of it, connect with your soul, connect with your life purpose, remember who you are, remember that you are a soul incarnated in a human experience, and not only remember it mentally, but feeling in the body. And they totally change your perspective of life. They destroy your ambitions. These types of connections destroy your plans, your 3D plans. They move you out of that focus that you had, the things that you wanted to achieve. And in the worst case scenarios, if you are in a 3D connection, they destroy that connection as well. So it is a chaotic connection because it brings destruction of your 3D structure so that you remember your divinity, so that you remember your soul purpose, so that you remember who you truly are. Okay? Those connections are past life connections. Not all the soul connections are past life connections, but these are. Now, there are also so many soul connections, past life connections, that are not meant to last forever. They are meant to redeem karma. They are meant to redeem what I owe to the person and what the person owes me. So we start doing an exchange of energy in order to return to each other what belongs to each other. There are others that we are paying karma, and there are others that we are receiving what the other person owes us, etc. So there are many kinds of connections, but this connection that I talk about, it's a connection that it's different because it's two people with their ego, with their vices, with their shadow, with their negative things. They come to your world and they destroy completely what you've created. They come to your world and they destroy completely what you believe about yourself. They come to your world and they destroy completely what you thought that you were. So they come with chaos. They come with the tower energy. So at the beginning, they feel intense. Actually, they feel intense all around, all the way. They feel scary. They feel there is a powerful pull towards the person. We tend, our mind tries to protect us by telling us this is so karmic, this is so toxic, but there is a difference to know if it's karmic or not. And I'll say this is the tower. So they create a break of the structure, right? The structure completely collapses. And they enter you through a process of introspection, crossing your shadow, crossing your hidden world, your hidden spaces that you didn't know they exist within you. They initiate you in a process of self-recognition, and it is painful because you are dying in order to be born again in your true essence, but it's worth, because the transformation takes you to a level of awareness, to a level of awakening, to a level of peace, to a level of clarity of vision, to a level of certainty, and to a level of divine connection with the source of everything that it is, that you've never felt ever before while you were maintaining your 3D program alive. So these connections are magnetic, pull you, distort your life. Many times, most of the time, they go through process of recalibration, which implies silence and separation, so that you can go inward and reinvent yourself. Okay? There is no step 1, step 2, step 3. There is no control. It's your soul taking over. And if this connection have an agreement of union, and if on top of that agreement, both parties do their job, then it can end in an accepting the connection and then a relationship. But not before, because it can stay at this stage where I recognize, and you see the Kundalini, the two serpents, which are the Kundalini, and then the lion with the wings is the elevation, it is the enlightenment. These are relationships, connections that come to enlighten you, that come to bring out of you the best version of yourself, your divine part. That's why they are so powerful. That's why they are so strong. That's why they are so magical, but also painful, because they kill your ego. They kill totally your ego. Now, this is an introduction of what soul connections are. There is a lot of information on the internet, very commercial, that I disagree with a lot of things. I disagree with the misguidance, because this is a very vulnerable topic. When a person goes through this, you are so vulnerable to manipulation, because you want union. And because you want union, you see things that are not necessarily, or you overlook the signs. So I want to talk about the signs that indicate that the soul connection is of the highest level. I'm not gonna say here that necessarily it will end up in union, because as I mentioned, that depends a lot on both parties that work, especially the work of the feminine, because we are the high priestess. And we are, as I showed you with the previous card, the ones in charge of elevating them. Next, the next part of this is that in order to identify if a soul connection is of the highest quality, if it's all of them come to help you reconnect with your purpose, with your mission, all of them back. Like, let's say the highest level of connection, in order to recognize it, both feel a pure and sincere love. That doesn't mean they are both good, perfect people. That doesn't mean that they don't have shadow. That doesn't mean that they are not ruled by their ego. That doesn't mean that they are, I don't know, what can I say? That doesn't mean that they are both enlightened. No, they can be very much human, very much egotistical, very much confused, very much dark, but the other person awakens within you a divine sense of unconditional love, activating your heart chakra. Your heart chakra starts expanding and opening to the connection, to the other. And you start emanating a frequency of divine unconditional love. Sign number 2, the person doesn't hurt you. The person doesn't damage you. The person doesn't abuse you. The person doesn't take advantage of you. He might hurt you because he's incapable or she's incapable of receiving. They might hurt you because they are not yet ready to recognize the connection due to their level of density. But they never mean harm. They might move from their vices. They might move from their shadow, which is the contrary to this energy. But not in order to harm you, just in order to protect themselves, to protect their ego. There is this purity towards the other that is not there with any other sort of connection. It's not it's a kind of depth in the feeling that you feel for the other, as well as the feeling that you receive from the other, the sensation. It creates connections with the synchronicities, numbers, angelical numbers, dreams. And you, once you connect with the person, even if you are not in a relationship, you start having a crazy spiritual development. Love resonates in abundance, never in scarcity. So you start becoming more abundant in ideas, in projects, in opportunities. you start growing. These are indicators that this connection is of the highest quality, the highest. Okay? So, the purpose of this video is to let you understand that there are connections that are more than just simply terrenal. They are not necessarily meant to end up in a relationship. They might not necessarily recognize each other, and they might not necessarily accept the connection. However, they are of divine origin. And even if nothing is down there, physical or emotional or mental, the connection is spiritual, and it will, yes or yes, elevate you to your best possible future, to your best possible potential. Okay? The best version of yourself.